Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I'd really appreciate your comment. It helps me understand if you enjoyed the story and how I can improve in future ones. My name is Joel Walker. I'm 37 years old, a fire inspector based in Wilmington, North Carolina. I work long hours, but I sleep even longer, on a couch that wasn't supposed to be mine. That's what happens when your wife starts treating your presence like background noise. We used to have warmth. Our home was small, but our connection made it feel solid. Lately, though, it's like she's been shutting off the lights one by one, not just in the rooms, but in the relationship itself. The shift didn't happen overnight. At first, it was minor things, conversations ending before they started, weekend plans quietly canceled without discussion. She used to hug me when I got home. Now she stays on her phone while I take off my boots. I remember the first time she said it. "You can sleep on the couch." It was over something minor, like whether we were going to her sister's for dinner. The tone of her voice didn't carry anger. It was something colder. I walked out of the bedroom and unfolded the old throw blanket she'd tossed into a basket months ago. That couch wasn't soft, but that night, it felt softer than her silence. I figured it was a bad day. One-off. Temporary. But it kept happening. Next time it was about dishes. Then about how I folded the towels. Then about how she needed personal space. Suddenly, I was packing that couch blanket like a suitcase every evening. She didn't ask if I was okay. Never asked how I slept. Her side of the bed stayed untouched, neat like a hotel room. Ours used to look lived in, wrinkled sheets, tangled legs, quiet breathing. Now it looked like a stage set. Nothing moved in there, not even the air. One Friday night, I came home around 8. I'd worked a commercial inspection that went long. I stopped by the market on the way back, picked up the pasta she used to ask for when she had a bad day. She was sitting in the living room with a glass of wine, earbuds in. The room smelled like lavender and detachment. I placed the bag on the counter and asked if she was hungry. She pulled one butt out, raised an eyebrow, then shrugged. I already ate. That was it. I stood there for a moment. Her eyes flicked back to her tablet. No invitation to join her. No interest in what I'd brought home. I made my own dinner in silence and watched the shadows move on the wall while I ate. Later that night, I heard her close the bedroom door with that soft but definitive click. Not slammed, just final. I walked to the hallway, stood there for a moment, then turned toward the couch like it had a name. Sometime past midnight, I lay there staring at the ceiling fan. It clicked with each rotation, an irritating rhythm I'd started memorizing. My phone buzzed. I picked it up expecting work, or maybe one of those weather alerts. Instead, it was Marissa, my wife's closest friend. Her message was short. "You back on the couch again?" I blinked. I hadn't told anyone. We hadn't argued in front of anyone. But somehow she knew. Before I could reply, another message popped up. Or, "My bed's never cold." That one landed differently. No winking emoji. No LOL to soften it. Just 5 words, straight and sharp. I stared at it for a long minute, then locked my phone and set it face down on the floor. But I couldn't ignore what that message meant. Not just the offer, but the timing. It confirmed something I'd been trying not to believe. I wasn't sleeping on the couch because of a misunderstanding. My wife had made a decision, maybe not out loud, but in action. She'd handed me a blanket instead of a conversation. And her best friend? She'd noticed. The next morning, I opened the fridge, poured orange juice into a glass that still had water spots from yesterday. She walked into the kitchen in a robe, said good morning like nothing was wrong. Like I hadn't spent my 7th night on furniture meant for naps. I nodded. No follow-up. Just that. I watched her open the pantry, glance around, then sigh like something was missing. Maybe it was the cereal. Maybe it was a husband who used to smile in the mornings. Hard to tell anymore. She made coffee, then walked away without looking back. Her mug sat steaming on the counter next to mine. Same brand we'd bought together. Same ceramic feel. Only hers had lipstick on it. By Sunday, I'd stopped bringing the blanket back to the closet. I just left it on the armrest, folded and ready. Like the couch and I had come to an understanding. I didn't ask questions. I just adjusted. Quietly. Like a man learning to breathe with less air. And somewhere in the background, Marissa's message sat in my inbox like a candle waiting for someone to strike the match. By Monday, the couch felt permanent. I stopped thinking of it as temporary. There was no conversation to fix things, no gesture from her that said, "Come back." She walked past me like I was a neutral object, something that used to matter but now blended into the background. She had begun staying out later. At first, she'd say she had errands. Then it became dinner with the girls. Eventually, she stopped explaining. Her shoes clicked across the hardwood just before sunset, and the sound of the front door locking behind her became routine. I cooked for myself. Sometimes I cleaned both our dishes, sometimes only mine. The silence that followed felt earned. Her phone was always face down, sometimes upside down, placed in odd spots where she'd never used to keep it. On top of a book, under the couch cushion, inside her purse during dinner. Strange places for someone with nothing to hide. One night, I watched her step out of the shower in a silk robe she hadn't worn in months. I remembered buying it during a trip to Charleston, back when touching her was still allowed. She used to wear it just for me. Now it came out for her nights away. I said nothing. I was learning to observe without reacting. Meanwhile, Marissa's messages picked up. Short comments at first, then observations that showed she knew more than she should. She really told you to sleep on the couch again? Was she always this cold? Or is this a new feature? She used to brag about how thoughtful you were. What changed? I wasn't sure what she was fishing for, but I kept responding. Casual at first. Careful. Just enough to let her know I'd read what she said. Marissa never pushed. She'd ask how my day was, or send a random meme that made me smirk. She wasn't flirting outright, but she wasn't ignoring me either. That small consistency made me realize how inconsistent things had become at home. My wife used to light up when I brought her coffee. Now she left lipstick-stained mugs on the counter and expected me to clean them up. On Wednesday, I came home early. Inspections had wrapped ahead of schedule, so I picked up dinner from her favorite Thai spot. I placed the containers on the table, sent her a quick, "Food's here," text, and waited. She came through the door 20 minutes later, scrolling her phone. She glanced at the table, then at me. I already ate. That was the third time this week. I watched her head upstairs, her bag still on her shoulder. She didn't ask if I wanted to talk, or if I'd eaten yet. She just disappeared behind the bedroom door. I sat there with unopened food, steam rising into a room colder than outside. I packed it for lunch the next day. Waste wasn't something I'd grown up tolerating, especially emotional waste. Later that night, around 11, I got another message from Marissa. This one was different. Some people don't see what they have until they lose it. Don't let that weigh on you. You're still the man you always were. She followed with a picture of her golden retriever sprawled across the couch with a caption, "At least someone knows how to make space." It wasn't romantic, but it was warm. And that warmth, however small, felt foreign in the house I paid for. By Friday, I stopped waiting for her to include me. She mentioned she had a weekend spa thing planned with the girls. She said it without emotion, while applying mascara in the hallway mirror. Her words were hollow, like she'd said them to a dozen boyfriends before me. "You'll be gone all weekend?" I asked, only to confirm logistics. "Yeah, it'll be good for both of us," she said, like she was reading from a self-help brochure. That night, Marissa sent another message. "If you need company this weekend, movie, drinks, dog walk, I'm around." I paused before replying, then typed, "I'll let you know. Appreciate it." Saturday passed quietly. I made breakfast, cleaned the garage, took a long walk through the trail behind our neighborhood. The air helped. Trees don't lie, and they don't judge. By evening, I drove to the waterfront and watched the lights ripple across the water. No texts from my wife. No check-ins or curiosity about where I'd gone. Marissa, on the other hand, sent a photo of her cooking. 2 plates, one untouched. "You hungry?" I replied with a thumbs up, then followed with, "I'll be there in 20. Her apartment wasn't far. When she opened the door, she wore joggers and an oversized sweatshirt. Casual, normal, comfortable. Dinner was simple: baked salmon, roasted potatoes, a green salad. We talked. No hidden meanings. Just normal things. Weather, work stories, dumb movies we both remembered quoting in college. Nothing happened. And yet, everything was different. For the first time in weeks, I felt human again. I got home late. She wasn't back. Her weekend spa trip had apparently extended into a Sunday brunch. When she returned the next afternoon, her mood had changed slightly. She asked where I'd been. "I went out," I said, flipping through a home inspection report. "Nice evening. Had dinner." She paused. "With who?" I looked up. "Just a friend." There was a small pause, like she'd swallowed the answer too quickly. Her phone buzzed. She answered it, walked upstairs mid-conversation. I heard her say something about catching up later. That night, I folded my blanket. The couch waited. By Monday morning, something in me had reset. I woke up on the couch, stretched my back, and stared at the ceiling with a strange sense of clarity. The kind that comes when you've stopped expecting change and started adapting to the world as it is. She came downstairs around 9, wearing a robe and scrolling her phone, humming like life was unfolding on her terms. I was already dressed, car keys in my hand. I poured the last of the coffee and left the pot empty behind me. Halfway through the week, I stopped cooking extra portions. If she wanted takeout, she could order it herself. I didn't ask about her schedule, didn't wonder who she texted when she smiled at her screen while leaning away from me on the couch. She had set the rules: parallel lives, minimal warmth, limited accountability. I just followed the outline she authored. Marissa kept texting, nothing suggestive, just connection. A shared article. A restaurant recommendation. A clip of a fire safety fail someone posted online with the caption, "Thought of you." That made me laugh, something that had become rare lately. At work, I focused better. My reports were tighter. Colleagues joked I looked more relaxed. The weight I used to carry in my face had started lifting. Sleeping alone didn't feel strange anymore. It felt stable. One evening, I walked in around 8:30 after meeting a friend from the station for drinks. She looked up from the couch, surprised. "You're out late." I hung up my jacket. "Yeah, had plans." Didn't mention anything. I walked past her without slowing. "Neither do you." She watched me set my keys on the counter. I could feel her glance lingering, as if trying to read something deeper in my posture. There wasn't a message to decode. I was just done explaining myself to someone who had stopped asking months ago. Thursday, I noticed her getting dressed with more care than usual. Heels, lip gloss, the kind of outfit she used to reserve for anniversary dinners. She left without saying where she was headed. I finished a leftover steak, washed my plate, and called Marissa. "Doing anything tonight?" I asked. She paused. "I can make time." We met at a place near the river walk. A small crowd, soft music, the kind of quiet that doesn't beg for attention. She wore jeans and a sweater, nothing flashy. Her presence didn't need decoration. We talked longer this time. She asked about the job. I asked about her dog, her new apartment. She shared how she drifted from my wife lately. "She's changed," she said, sipping wine. "So have you. Good or bad? Just real. You're present. She's performing." I drove home at midnight. The house lights were off. I didn't check her location or wonder about her night. I had my own story now, one she wasn't part of. By Saturday morning, I was loading tools into the truck when she walked outside in leggings and a t-shirt. "Where are you off to?" "Volunteering. Fire safety event at the elementary school." "You didn't say anything. You stopped listening." She blinked. That landed differently. She watched me finish packing the gear, and for the first time in weeks, looked unsure of herself. "You've been distant." I slid the tailgate shut. "I've been quiet. There's a difference." She crossed her arms. "Are you angry?" I checked the straps on the ladder. "You said you needed space." I respected that. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "So we're just roommates now?" "You told me to sleep on the couch." I adapted. The rest of the day moved quickly. By the time I got home, she had left again. The robe was back on its hook. The wine glass was rinsed, but not put away. A passive message. She'd been here, but wasn't staying engaged. I walked to the bedroom for the first time in weeks. Her closet door was open, dresses pushed aside like someone had been in a rush. On the dresser was a photo of us from 3 years ago. The frame faced the wall now. That small detail told me more than any argument ever could. Marissa texted later that night. "Good talk earlier. You seemed lighter." Starting to see things clearly, I replied. She asked if I wanted to walk tomorrow morning. Just a trail stroll, something simple. I agreed. Sunday morning felt cleaner. The trail wasn't crowded, just enough movement to feel alive. We talked, then walked in silence. Comfortable silence, the kind I used to share with someone who no longer existed in my home. Back at the car, she smiled. "You don't flinch anymore. Stopped waiting to be chosen." She reached out, squeezed my shoulder briefly. "I see you." On the drive home, I passed our old date night spot. The lights were on, families inside, couples laughing, candles flickering. I kept driving. No urge to stop. The house was quiet. She was upstairs, from what I could tell. I grabbed a beer, sat on the back porch, and stared at the sky as the first stars crept into view. For the first time in a long time, the silence around me matched the stillness inside. 2 days after that trail walk with Marissa, something in the house shifted, quietly, but unmistakably. It was her energy. She started hovering near the kitchen when I poured my coffee, asking questions with tones that felt more like surveillance than curiosity. Did you sleep well? Long day yesterday? Been going out a lot lately, huh? I answered each one with calm, trimmed responses. Not dismissive, just economical. The kind of replies someone uses when they've learned small talk is usually a prelude to control. That week, I stopped folding her laundry when it landed in the shared bin. One load, 2 baskets, separate intentions. She walked in while I was grabbing mine from the dryer and stared at the second pile for longer than necessary. By Thursday, she started dressing better at home. Hairstyled just to make dinner. Loungewear swapped for outfits that didn't look accidental. She glanced toward me after each appearance like she expected a reaction. I gave none. She started mentioning coworkers by name again, as if reminding me she had social options. Chris said the budget meeting was a disaster. Or, Andrea wants me to help with her presentation. I nodded each time, without follow-up. She noticed. One night, I got home late from grabbing a drink with Marissa. Just one. Light conversation, shared fries, laughter that echoed across the bar booth and settled somewhere real. When I walked through the front door, my wife was curled up on the love seat, flipping through a magazine she hadn't touched in months. Out again. Yeah. With her. I slid off my shoes. Yes. She placed the magazine down slowly. You're getting close. I raised an eyebrow. Should that concern you? She didn't answer. Just crossed her legs and picked up the magazine again. Flipped the page without reading a word. The following afternoon, I came home early and caught her on the phone. She paused when she saw me, then ended the call. You're home early. I hung up my keys. Didn't feel like staying late. Your girlfriend give you the night off? I tilted my head slightly. She's not my girlfriend. Yet, she muttered. I moved past her and headed to the porch. Fresh air spoke more clearly than she did. That weekend, Marissa invited me to a cookout. A few neighbors, a grill, nothing staged. I brought a 6-pack and a bag of chips. She introduced me as the man who knows when to show up and when to leave a burning house. Everyone laughed. The fire pit conversation drifted into memories, old songs, dumb high school moments, travel plans that never made it past brainstorming. She sat beside me, close enough for our arms to touch. When I reached for my drink, her hand brushed mine. Neither of us moved away. A photo made it onto social media. Marissa tagged me. Just the two of us, side by side, relaxed. By morning, my wife had seen it. She stood by the sink, glass in hand, her face tight. Looks like you had fun. I did. With her. Yeah. She set the glass down harder than needed. People are starting to talk. I finished buttoning my sleeve. Then they're paying attention. She opened her mouth, then shut it. There was nothing left to say. That night, I noticed a familiar scent, her old perfume. The one she wore the year we got married. She stood in the hallway, applying it like it held a secret spell. You going somewhere? I asked. Just felt like wearing it. I nodded, continued brushing my watch band. She lingered near the doorway. You used to love this scent. Things change. She exhaled like the wind had been knocked out of her. Later that week, Marissa stopped by the station. She'd brought lunch, just a quick visit, casual. One of the guys whistled when she left. Damn, Joel. That yours? Not yet, I replied, walking back inside. The next day, my wife made dinner for the first time in months. Steak, asparagus, and wine. She didn't mention an occasion. Just plated it and called me to the table. She kept watching me. We could talk, maybe, she said carefully. I've said what needed saying. Her face shifted. You're throwing this away? I lived in the trash long enough. The meal ended in silence. That evening, I went for another walk. Marissa met me near the park. We didn't talk much, just moved in rhythm with the trees. Back home, she was sitting on the stairs, holding a photo album. I was looking through this. We had good years. I took the album from her hands, closed it gently, and set it aside. Yeah, past tense. The following Monday, I filed the papers. Quiet office. Simple form. The kind of ending that doesn't make noise, but echoes for years. The clerk asked if I needed copies. I said yes, then waited as the printer hummed a kind of finality I never thought I'd welcome. At home, the document sat on the counter when she came through the door, grocery bags in hand, hair pulled back like she'd just finished rehearsing a version of herself she hoped I'd miss. She looked down, eyes freezing on the header. Dissolution of marriage. Her voice cracked slightly. You're serious? I met her stare. You weren't. She stepped closer, one hand resting near the envelope. We can go to counseling. You refused that last year. I didn't think we needed it. You waited until there was nothing left. Her hand withdrew from the counter. Silence wrapped around us like a closing curtain. That week, we lived as ghosts under the same roof. No requests, just the occasional reminder that a door had been opened, and only one of us was walking through it. I moved into a rental near the Cape Fear River. 2 bedrooms, clean kitchen, empty closets. Each drawer I filled felt like I was reclaiming breath. I didn't look back while unpacking. Every item I placed had a purpose. Every space I claimed was mine again. Marissa helped carry boxes on the second day. She brought iced tea and that familiar smirk that always made her look like she knew more than she'd ever admit. We moved in sync, no need for directions. She hung towels while I organized tools. On the third night, she brought over dinner, her version of comfort food, grilled chicken, roasted carrots, and lemon rice. We ate on the porch, city lights flickering across the waterline. She looked over her glass. You seem taller. Couches don't shrink men, but marriages can. She smiled. Well, you've returned. For once, I felt it. Back at the old place, I left a note. Simple. Direct. You made the rules. I followed them. Now I'm writing my own. She never responded. Mutual friends stopped asking what happened. They saw the change. People know when respect has been withdrawn, even if the words aren't public. Her story lost traction once mine stood quietly beside it, whole and unmoved. 3 weeks later, I received a message from her. 2 sentences. I regret how far I pushed you. I never thought you'd actually go. She made her choice. I made mine. Marissa and I didn't dive into anything official. No declarations. Just presence. Regular check-ins. Shared meals. Long walks. We started going to the gym together. Grocery store runs turned into mini dates. The kind of normal that doesn't need labels to feel real. One night she asked, ever think about what would have happened if she hadn't pushed you away? I stared at the ceiling for a second before answering. I'd still be sleeping on that couch. She nodded. No gloating. Just understanding. Sometimes freedom doesn't come through force. Sometimes it walks in calmly, after you've walked away from a place that once felt permanent but turned disposable. The last time I saw my ex, she was at the gas station. She waved. I nodded. There was nothing to reclaim. People always say relationships require work. They rarely admit that disrespect erases effort in seconds. I wasn't perfect, but I remained. I gave chances. She gave me her back, then her silence, then a push toward the couch. Eventually, I stood up. Respect is never a negotiation. You either give it, or you teach others how to take it elsewhere. And that's what I did, with my name, my peace, and a woman who never had to pretend to care.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.